Hello there, you caught me in the deep ocean again. If you haven't seen my video on the black carpet, go watch that. You don't need to see it for this video, it's just greatly appreciated. Instead of a submarine though, this time I'm on a submersible. Now don't worry, I'm not some billionaire about to go see the Titanic. No, I'm Lady Lifetime. I exist across time and space. We're not even going that deep. Instead we're going about roughly 900 to 1,000 meters, just the start of the mesopelagic zone. Why there? Well, you see, I have another ocean cryptid for you. Or should I say, cryptids? I have not one, not two, but 5 to present to you today. These cryptids are special too. You see, out of all the cryptids I've spoken about so far, all 2, this set of 5 is most believable yet. They also aren't spotted by some random guy in the countryside. No, these are documented by an actual biologist and his engineer partner. Now for some background. Before we actually get into the cryptids, we need to talk about the circumstances. As I said, this is a submersible. A submersible is a vehicle which relies on an external ship to help it in some fashion, whether it be raise, lower, or even move. A submarine, of course, is self-sufficient. A submarine can pilot itself forwards, down, while a submersible can't. Since you need a lot of expensive equipment, propellers, or living quarters, you could put a lot more into the hull of these things. That's why they could go much deeper than a sub. If we were in a submarine right now, we would be vaporized, and then their ashes would be crushed into a tiny space from all the water above us. I'm realizing now I don't really have a segue. Now that you know exactly what we're in right now, time for the actual meat and potatoes of this cryptid story. The depth I chose is the same as the one as biologist William Beebe and Otis Barton were able to sink down to back in the 1930s. Turning the clock back a bit though, Britain allowed Beebe to establish a research station on, and I'm not kidding, the island is called this, non-such island, Bermuda. For some time he would destroy habitats via dredging, but also do some helmet diving and attempt to study. However, this proved to be an extremely inefficient process. Thus, the idea for a submersible of his own was born. The bathysphere was said submersible. Designed by Otis Barton, it was a 5,000-pound cast-iron sphere with 3 spots for porthole windows made of fused quartz. The inside was lined with a special limestone material that trapped CO2 and moisture. It also contained oxygen tanks which were circulated via palm leaf fans. There was also a radio line which connected the bathysphere up to its mothership, where notes were taken by one Gloria Hollister. The entrance would be bolted shut, and it had no locomotive tech of its own. It was just a sphere that would be lowered into the sea. The inside, by the way, was less than 5 feet across, and could only fit 2 people. You could guess what 2 people were commonly down there the most. From 1930 to 1934, Beebe and Barton would frequently use the bathysphere. It was mostly used to test the limits of how far it could go, test scientific theories of the time, and map out the ocean floor of Bermuda. It was their deep-sea dives, though, that we get the interesting bits. Beebe would record any wildlife he would see. Out of everything he saw, 5 fish stand out from the rest. These 5 fish have never been seen again after Beebe's dives. Though some now have modern-day theories of what they could be, some are just unexplainable. I want to go through these fish in order of what I find to be the most interesting, and not necessarily when they were seen. Keep in mind, only 2 of these fish were seen on the same dive. The rest were all seen on separate dives. Well, without further ado, let's take a look at... I just know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of all of these, so just bear with me. Bathyceratus trianlicus, or the 3-starred anglerfish. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Beebe placed all these fish in his own taxonomy as well, since he thought he'd never see any of these fish again. Back to what he saw though, it was described to be like a typical anglerfish, but with a flatter face. The most striking characteristic though was the fact it had 3 lures rather than 1. To quote Beebe himself, "New fish, 6 inches long, with 3 elysia on its head, 1 big in the front and 2 behind it close together. Fish not very deep, good view. We'll enlarge on this." Beebe described the light lures as giving off a pale yellow. You could kind of see why this one's first. It's just an anglerfish with 3 lures. Out of the 5 fish, this one is not touched upon as much, nor do other scientists try to debunk it as much as the others. The second fish to look at is the Abyssal rainbow gar. It is the only fish that Beebe did not give a taxonomy name to. Beebe, too, even seemed skeptical about what he saw here. Apparently he saw 4-inch-long needle-like fish that had vibrant colors. They swam upright and did not move from this position. In Beebe's own words, also 4 fish with pointed scarlet bills and heads. The rest of the body is light blue, fading into a clear yellow. Gar-like. Believe you, they are swimming slowly out, their position obliquely upward. Why Beebe chose to refer these as gars is unknown, as the garfish is typically seen in fresh waters. Okay, this one I'm really going to screw up. Bathyembrix isteophasma. also known as the pallid sailfin. It is probably the creepiest looking fish out of all five. Beebe described this fish as having a sickly color and being 2 feet in length, with a large mouth and 2 sail-like fins. Beebe said the 2 most unusual things were first the color, which in light was an unpleasant pale olive drab, the hue of a water-soaked flesh, an unhealthy buff. It was a color worthy of these black depths, like a sickly sprouts of plants in a cellar. Another strange thing was the almost tailless condition, the caudal fin being reduced to a tiny knob or button, while the vertical fins taking its place rose high above and stretched far beneath the body, these fins also being colorless. I missed its pelvic fins and its teeth, if it had any, while such things as nostrils and ray counts were, of course, out of the question. Beebe then goes on to gush about the bathysphere for some reason. Either way, a 2-foot-long sickly fish just kinda hovering in the ocean water does kinda sound scary to me. Bathysitis pentagrammus, or the 5-line constellation fish. Beebe actually saw this along with the pallid sailfin at the same dive in 1934. Beebe took great interest in this fish simply because of its beauty. A butterfly fish-like fish with 5 lines of yellow bioluminescent stars on the sides of its body. In his writing, Beebe said, 5 by 6 inch fish with 4 or 5 lines of lights, yellow with purple circles, 2 lines very distinctly curved up above the middle line and 2 more curved below. More about it when I come up. Remind me, it disappeared by turning head on. New fish. I enjoy the excitement here. Further details describe the fish as being brown in color, vertical fins, and a large eye. Beebe went into more detail on the lights by saying, I saw its real beauty. Along the sides of the body were 5 unbelievably beautiful lines of light, 1 equatorial and 2 curved ones above and 2 below. Each line was composed of a series of large pale yellow lights, and every one of these was surrounded by a semicircle of small but intensely purple photophores. I went ahead and saved the best for last, Bathysphaera intactica, or the giant dragonfish. This is the only fish that Beebe did not see during the 1934 dives. Instead, this was recorded 2 years prior in 1932. The dragonfish is an about half-foot-long fish which floats through the water until it finds food. What Beebe describes here, however, is 6 feet long and features a single row of bioluminescent lights along its body. For this one, I feel like I must read most of Beebe's direct quote, since I cannot do it justice. Several minutes later, at 2,100 feet, I had the most exciting experience of the whole dive. 2 fish went very slowly by, not more than 6 or 8 feet away, each of which was at least 6 feet in length. They were the general shape of large barracudas, but with shorter jaws which kept wide open at the time I watched them. A single line of strong lights, pale bluish, was strung down the body. The usual second line was quite absent. The eyes were large, even for a great length of the fish. The undershot jaw was armed with numerous fangs, which were illuminated either by mucus or indirect internal lights. Now, for being only 6 feet long, that doesn't sound like it's that big. However, for the deep ocean, that's actually large. And seeing something of that size in the deep ocean is frankly unnerving. I did say the ocean was terrifying, but man, this is the reason why. So those were the 5 fish that William Beebe saw, which were all collaborated by Otis Barton. However, Beebe over the years has had a ton of skeptics when it comes to his sightings. Other scientists say he invented these fish for some reason. It's an argument I don't get, given the bathysphere was used for more than just, yo, here's cool fish. So making up species doesn't seem like something Beebe would have done. Furthermore, the ocean is huge, man. The fact that none of these species have been seen again only makes sense to me. According to none other than the Ocean Census again, around 2,000 new species are discovered each year in the ocean, which is simultaneously a lot, but also not a lot. Remember, the ocean is huge, like 352 quintillion gallons huge, like 352 followed by 18 zeros, like roughly 718 trillion, 367 billion, 346 million, 938,776 Olympic swimming pools huge. Lord only knows just how many species live in the waters. Another reminder, 90% of the ocean has been unexplored. So the fact that none of these fish have been seen again does not surprise me in the slightest. The chances of seeing one of these fish again, if they do exist, is slim. Though I guess we have to talk about the theories. Only 2 of these fish have actual plausible theories tied to them. According to ichthyologist Carl Hubbs, the 5-star constellation fish could also be a centenophora, also known as a comb jelly. Actually, looking at one of these things, I could see how this could be the case. Notice the lines going down its sides. My other theory is one I cannot find much info on about who actually proposed the idea. However, the palate sailfin is speculated to simply be a squid. I've neglected to mention the one issue which does bring what Beebe saw into question: those quartz windows. You see, they were 3 inches thick, with an 8-inch diameter. This isn't that big, at all, and could have caused heavy distortion. The cold temperatures did not help either, leading to some condensation forming on these windows. Lastly, the light used was literally just a flashlight, which was shown out of one porthole while Barton looked at the other. This does bring what Beebe saw into question, as he could have easily misidentified what he saw based on the distortions present. However, the fact that only 2 of these fish have some sort of argument against them shows that there isn't much out there that these fish could have been misidentified as. I'll now take some time to reiterate that the ocean is frankly scary. Even what is known is scary. If you haven't seen how sperm whales sleep, look that up when you're done watching this. It gives me the chills. So I now gotta say whether or not I believe the sightings of a 1930s white guy who saw some fish out of an 8-inch hole in the dark of the ocean. I do honestly believe Beebe and Barton here, even if there is a strong chance of misidentification. As I said, we make new discoveries each year. In my opinion, it's really only a matter of time when it comes to these species being found again. The megamouth shark is a good example of this. A 17-foot-long fish which lives in the depth of 4,000 meters wasn't found until 1976. To think something that big took us that long to discover. And if that's the case, I can only believe these 5 fish exist. Only time will tell whether or not I'm right, though. I'm Lady Lifetime, and this was Cryptid Obscura. Join me next time when we'll go to the opposite of the ocean, and take to the skies to learn about some obscure avian cryptid. Again, I've been Lady Lifetime, and I'll see you in due time.